Okay, so requests for my new video were kind of divided. I had two people that wanted me to do a mono red silica deck, and two people that wanted me to do something called Gargantia. So I was all ready, man. I was gonna get my silica on. I was like, alright, I'm gonna look up the best silica cards, gonna see if I can figure out some combos that don't rely so heavily on Asuna being your main beater and Kirito being your main backup and making silica a really core essential part of the deck. And in the middle of my research, something just clicked. And I went over and I looked at the Gargantia trial deck, and I was like, oh my gosh. I have got to talk about this. So, Gargantia trial deck time. Let's get that list up there. So, if you've been playing for a while, you're going to look at this list and notice a couple of really glaringly different things about this and other trial decks. Now, it's a trial deck, so obviously it's not going to have a core or anything, but there are a couple of really, really odd different things about this trial deck, and it's the reason I wanted to do this video. Oh, wowzers, this deck has 20 level zeros. Okay, well, I guess you could say that this deck is pretty powerful on level 0. So to start us off, we have 4 blue vanilla zeros and 2 red vanilla zeros. This is very good numbers because there aren't that many blue cards in this deck, so the 4 blue zeros kind of help even it out a little. Our first interesting little tidbit is this 4K here, which is really interesting. Most starter decks don't come with something as powerful as 4000 on level 0. 4000 is obviously really powerful for a level 0. It does have an effect that could potentially kill it, but the chances of it happening are low enough that by the time you actually do that many checks, he's probably not going to be that useful anyway. Bellows' big sister type is our level 0 assist, and I'll certainly say her sisters are big. Amy Full of Curiosity is a... When I said big sisters, I was talking about her breasts. It was a boob joke. Amy Full of Curiosity is a two-man squad card. This refers to cards that are normally pretty weak on their own, but give another card plus 1500 power. Ideally, you want to be playing level 0 with 3 cards on the field, but this does have its own uses. You can use it to get over characters that are being assisted by 2 characters at level 0, and if you're lucky enough to get 2 of these in your hand, then you have 2 4000s with no downside. Awesome. Happy Amy is a suicider, and that's pretty interesting, isn't it? This is a trial deck that actually comes with its own suicider. Run it into zeros that are too big to deal with otherwise. Melty Mischievous Kid is 3500 as long as your opponent has 2 or more cards in the stock. Your opponent's probably not going to be spending a lot of stock at level 0, so you're almost always going to get her effect. Even then, I'd say she's probably one of the weaker cards in the deck. She's outshined by the 4000 in my opinion. Level 1 is about where I expected the trial deck to be. You should be able to use this level to get a little bit of an advantage over your opponent. Our first level 1, Composed Girl, is a really interesting card that I'd really like to talk in depth about. See, it's a level 1 Suicider, which you don't see very often, especially here in a trial deck. The reason this one's so interesting is because it's a super Suicider that has Encore. Since this deck has such a ridiculous number of level 0s, you're most likely going to end up with level 0s in your hand at level 1 that you're not going to be able to use for the rest of the game. So potentially what you could do is pay the 1, swing with her, run her into something that's too strong for you to handle, get your 1 stock back, and discard one of the zeros in your hand that you know you're not going to be able to use for the rest of the game. So, on and all, it's actually a pretty decent card. I actually really like it. Level 1 Suiciders are a really interestingly good idea because there are so many beat sticks that just start rolling all over level 1. So this is kind of a way to deal with them that works with the deck. Good job. 4 free vanilla level 1s. You either like them or you hate them. There's nothing wrong with a free 5500 at level 1, although I feel there are better alternatives. The deck has one climax combo in the form of Pondering Leto. He's actually not that great. You can pay 2 when you play his climax to get rid of a level 0. Obviously, there are only really 2 uses for this. You snipe one of their level 0 assists, or you hit their Brainstorm. Hitting their Brainstorm is pretty good, but getting rid of a level 0 assist is normally whatever. They normally have stronger assists either in play or ready to be played. Level 2 suffers pretty heavily because of how many level 0s the deck runs, but I'll run through them really quick. Our main level 2 beater is an 8500, which is downright pathetic. This might be okay as a cheaper secondary beater that, you only got one stock you can pay, so you play this one instead. But the fact that this is the deck's main firepower at level 2 is really, really dumb. While only costing one stock is technically a plus, it's only got 8,500 power. It's going to lose to pretty much every other level 2 out there that isn't mainly for tech. It has no tech to make up for its low power, and it only hits for one soul. You should not be relying on this card as your level 2 beater, but we don't have much of a choice. We get 2 copies of the level 2 3000 backup. Oh, so now our 8500 can be an 11,500. Oh my, Christmas sure has come early this year, hasn't it, folks? Leto Moving Taste is a 10,000, which is actually a pretty decent power to be at level 2. You have to discard one card from your hand in order to play him, but keep in mind this deck has a ridiculous number of level 0s. Chances are at this stage in the game you're going to have 1 or 2 zeros in your hand you can afford to get rid of. See, it's a decently powered card that works really well with the deck, which would make it fantastic if it came with more than one of this. See, you could have had 3 of him, 2 of the vanilla. It doesn't even mess with the ratios, it just would have made level 2 slightly less retarded. Now we move on to the deck's level 2 assist. Just kidding, the deck has no level 2 assist. Ah ha ha, winning is so overrated. Like most trial decks, this trial deck comes with 2 copies of the level 3, which is just fine because this deck's level 3 is the strongest card in the entire trial deck. Just kidding, it's one of the worst level 3s I've ever seen. I seriously thought when I first saw this it was some kind of joke, like maybe some of the effect text was missing or maybe I was just misreading its effect. But no, I wasn't. Its first effect is pretty average. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck, one goes to your hand, the other 2 are discarded to your waiting room. It doesn't exactly give you hand advantage because you have to play this card from your hand in order to get the one card, so you're pretty much breaking even, which really isn't that bad when it comes to level 3. Its second effect gives you plus 1500 power if you play a climax. Oh, if you play a climax, he becomes an 11,500. Can we get a nerf riot? See, this is one of the reasons that people believe power boosts have no place in level 3. There are some cards with really ridiculously good power boosts, like the level 3 Madoka, that give you a field big enough that you can swing out with everybody and clear the fields. Field clearing is still important at level 3 because you want your opponent to have to spend a lot of resources to keep their field alive. It's a war of attrition. Know what you're going to clear out with your 11,500 at level 3? Not a thing! Level 3 power boosts can be good. 1500s that you have to work to get are not good. And of course, the cherry on the crap cake is no heals and it doesn't lessen soul damage. For those of you that think I'm being too harsh, let me put it into perspective for you. If this had 1500 less power, it would be a pretty good level 2. That's sad. The deck includes 4 copies of the event Escape, and it's actually not that bad. No, really, it's not that bad. You can pay 1 and you can get 1 character back from your waiting room, which is kind of Red's thing. It makes sense that this deck would have a card like this. It doesn't really give hand advantage, it's mainly just a fixer. You can get something if it's in your discard pile and you really need it, like your level 2 or your level 3. Heck, you can even use it at level 1 if you really need one of your Suiciders back or something. The climaxes are 4/2/2, 4 of the one you have a climax combo card for. Young Man from the Sky is pretty notable. It gives all of your characters plus 1 soul, and when it comes into play you can choose 1 blue card from your discard pile and put it in your stock. Normally you're taking the top card of your deck and putting it in stock, but this way you can guarantee that you don't get a card in your stock that's a climax, so this is actually a pretty good card. The deck also has a promo card it can come with, and I'd like to look at that card too. Okay, Leto the Drifter. If there are 4 more cards in your hand, this gains plus 1500 power and has Encore. Put the top card of your library in the clock. This card's friggin' great! I'd play the crap out of this card. Sucks hardcore that it's only coming as like a promo or something. If you're clocking a card at the beginning of each of your turns, then you're probably going to have enough hand advantage to have 4 or more cards in your hand pretty much at all times. So he's a turn 1 cost, 7,000, with a form of Encore that makes it so you don't lose stock or hand advantage. This card pretty much needs to be in your deck if you're going to run this trial deck. So, serious time. What do I really think of the deck? Well, as you can probably tell, I'm not a huge fan of this deck's late game. I really think this deck's late game is going to be what kills it. Its early game is pretty nice too, but a little clunky. If you really are planning on playing this deck because you really like Gargantia the anime or something, then here's a couple of words of advice. For one, don't rely too heavily on this trial deck. Get it, try it out, and then rip some cards out of it and buy a booster box or two so that you can make an actually good competitive deck. I've been looking into the set a little bit, and honestly, I think you should look into the green-blue side of things. I think you'll like what you see. Also, while some of the cards are pretty good, the numbers are pretty jacked up. Here's what I would do. Get the trial deck, take out all 6 of the level 0 vanillas, and then throw in 2 either Brainstorm or Suiciders. You could also do 1 Suicider and 1 2-man squad card. Dedicate the other 4 cards to giving this deck some late game assist, because it's really going to need it. As decent as the event is, you might want to drop it down to no more than 2. Dedicate those other 2 card spaces you now have to getting a bit more level 3 play. And look for good level 3s. Lastly, switch out the deck speeders. Take out Leto Pondering and Meltian Swimsuit. Throw in a full set of 4 Leto the Drifters if you can get your hands on them. Cut the level 2 vanilla down to 2 if you really need it to fill space, but try to find something better if you can. You're definitely not going to use it as a main beater unless you like losing. Once it's at secondary beater, look for a really good level 2 beater you can use. If trial deck cards are all you really have to work with, make Leto Moving Taste your main beater for now, but try to move it into something a little more appropriate once you decide what your colors are going to be. These changes definitely won't make the deck tournament worthy, but if you just really want to use this deck style because you like the anime, like I said before, then this is the easiest way to make the trial deck competitive. I still highly recommend, though, that you kind of ignore this trial deck for the most part after you rip out its climaxes, promos, events if you're going to use them, and really decent level 0s. Like I said before, if you're not looking for one certain character or one set of characters to build your deck around, then take a look at green and blue, because I really do feel that a green-blue deck is where the main meta for the style is going to come. Mono yellow looks pretty promising too, so go take a look. I think that's about all I have to say. This video is running way too long. If you liked the profile, don't forget to frontal attack that like button, and you can also pay to stock to become a level 2 subscriber. If you have an idea for what you want me to look at next, go ahead and leave it right there in the comments section, and I'll take a look at it later. Ciao!